We are almost 1 year into a really interesting campaign, and actually a scenario that I see quite often. It's when the business that performs a service, in this case, could be like a door installer or a window installer, and their job is to go out, quote up the job, install the window, install the door, whatever the service is, right? They have ironed out their internal systems and processes so well that they are now offering like a DIY solution. So they use the warehouse to chop up the materials, send everything out, whether it's flat pack or whatnot. And so now the business wants to split up the two brands. There's the DIY solution, because a lot of the time you don't want the DIY to cannibalize the service business, because you might make more money on the service, etc. So it could be a challenge to set the two up. In this case, it was one website. It was a Wix website, good domain with the exact match key term. Anyone that tells you exact match domains don't matter anymore, don't listen to them. They work just as much as they worked for me personally 15 years ago, right? Everyone says they don't work at all, or they don't work as much. There's definitely truth in that, but at the end of the day, if you expect just the exact match to carry your website, it won't. Don't. You still need to do all of the SEO things that you would normally do. So in this case, the domain was aged, but it was a Wix website, and it was already getting a little bit of traffic. When you're rebuilding such a site, I'm always concerned with retaining and mitigating the SEO loss. But the goal is split the two brands up. There's the DIY component. We ship out the thing to you. You just get us measurements. Hopefully there's no mistakes in those measurements. A lot of challenges there. And then there's the business where we come out and do the thing, whatever that thing is, right? So one domain is a fresh domain. The other domain is already an aged domain. So more care needs to go into the aged domain. So first thing we did is we created a URL structure which almost identically mimics the original domain, plus a few additional things that you need for SEO, landing pages, some brand pages, some project pages. There was a whole section of employment. So basically the original URL structure plus additional things, but the text and more or less everything else, you really want it to be as close as the original. You don't want to shock Google with a completely different setup. You want the plumbing and the water to still, and the SEO juice to keep flowing through the site. After it marinates and it matures, which is where we're at now, we begin to sculpt things further. Sorry, the sculpting began straight away, but now we have some answers, and basically the two sites I've identified are way too similar. Okay, so two sites too similar. The installation site is skyrocketing. It's doing so well. Hello, doggy. It's okay. I've got a doggy like that as well. He doesn't want to play ball with anyone. So, two sites. One is skyrocketing. The young one is skyrocketing. It's overtaken the mature one. The mature one is doing really well on rankings. It's increased rankings quite heavily. The overall traffic, I've identified there's cannibalization issues. In other words, this site is too similar to the other site. So we know what we need to do. Completely rewrite the content. How am I going to rewrite the content? Obviously, we can make it unique, blah, blah, blah. We can look at the top ranking websites all around the world, as you should be doing. Top ranking websites, top ranking competitors, see the kind of words that they're using. So there's scientific SEO stuff, but there's no better way to get original content created by simply interviewing the business owner or the person that's doing the jobs, right? ChatGPT can generate 100 questions. You send a few competitors to ChatGPT, you send the business website to ChatGPT, you send the About Us page to ChatGPT, and you say, hey, generate me 100 interview questions that will make for a great About Us page that will demonstrate expertise, experience, trust, and authority, right? And you're going to get 100 good questions that you shoot off to the business owner. Now they can set up the lighting themselves, set up the camera and the audio themselves, record it, sends you the content. That content is transcribable, whether it's manually done. So I've got a whole bunch of content writers that will grab that content and then use that as the base to then SEO optimize it. And you get completely unique, founder-led content that was made from the heart by the person who made the business. There's no better person to answer those questions. And in today's day and age, with all of the tools that we have available to us, a whole bunch of AI transcription tools that are great, the tool that then processes this video is great, that creates the caption. So we're hitting so many birds with one stone. We're potentially creating social media content, YouTube content, we're creating text for the site. These clips can then get chopped up into various clips on other service pages. That's where we're at with the campaign. Overall, both sites skyrocketed, did really well with rankings. We've just identified that the original site, I believe it's cannibalization. Pages are too similar to the second site. Second site's soaking everything up and skyrocketing. While that's happening, we're still continuing the blogs, the links, both sites still getting those. I believe there's a little bit of cannibalization happening with the original site, which should be an easy fix. Content was rewritten to be unique, but I still think like it's pretty much the same thing said in the About Us page. There's only so much that you can rewrite there to make it unique. So from a sentence perspective, paragraph perspective, it's unique, but we want these to be, we want to separate the brands. I think that's what I'm trying to get to. Separate these brands with their own stories so they're their own thing. We have utilized leads for both. So for example, the DIY site pushes leads to the service site and vice versa. So we are blending things. So no wonder that there's a bit of Google's confused. Hold on, which is the actual brand? These are very similar brands. Both sites getting good amount of leads every month. The lead quantity is going up every month. So we're not even half. I think we're about 6 months into the campaign since the new sites went up. So that's about when the marination phase begins to stabilize, where fluctuations in the rankings begin to stabilize. I remember watching the keywords jump from like position 30 to position 15, position 10, and now it's solid like 1, 2, or 3 positions for a lot of the desirable keywords, which were the main keyword plus the city or the suburb, main keyword plus sort of DIY, installation, etc. So a common thing I see a lot of the time, one of our clients in the garage installation space does the service, but they do get the garage fit outs, but then on the side they built up a few Shopify stores where they sold the cabinetry separate, where they sold the storage solutions separate. So now you've got the service provider brand, and now you have the DIY do-it-yourself brand. We're trying to be careful not to cannibalize the leads, because if we're selling a premium installation service, the money comes from the service, right? So moral of the story, if you're in a position where you want to split up your brands, you want the service and then the wholesale, split them up completely, you're obviously going to need to rebuild both sites, or at least the new site has to be completely unique. The reason we rebuilt the original site is because Wix just does not rank. If there's no competition and you build a site, then it really doesn't matter if it's Wix or Weebly or Squarespace. But the moment you hit any kind of somewhat competitive key terms, I'm just not seeing Wix sites at the top of Google. So that's why that one had to go, and instantly, as soon as we rebuilt it, it started to head in the right direction. Plus it gave us the tools that we needed to do things like schema markup, agile pages, custom post types, a whole bunch of stuff, which we just couldn't effectively do on Wix, and just can't be done without crazy custom code, and that's the last thing you want to be doing. Custom coding a platform that gets automatic updates, and you can't trust them to make sure that your site doesn't drop when you do that. Hope that makes sense.